They don't talk about it, but you feel it late at night when no one's watching, when the world goes quiet and something inside you does not. Your phone is in your hand, your mind is restless, your body's alive, but your soul feels missing. So, you chase something, you scroll, you click, you fantasize, not because you are bad, not even because you are lustful, but because you are empty. You tell yourself it's normal. Just biology, just stress, just a release. But deep down, you know better. Because even while you are chasing it, you are not really there. Your body moves, but your heart's somewhere else. And when it's over, the silence comes back. The ache returns, and the guilt. It does not come from morality. It comes from meaninglessness. You have felt this before, not just after, but during. Even when it's intense, wild, thrilling, you feel distant from yourself. You tell yourself it's about pleasure. But what if it's not? What if it's never been about the body? What if it's about the wound? The one you never got to speak, the one no one ever saw, the one that did not bleed, but hollowed you out quietly. Carl Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." What if lust is not about desire, but about escape? Escape from boredom, from loneliness, from shame, from the unbearable silence of your unmet self. You don't just want her, you want to be held, you want to be known, you want to be seen without having to perform. But instead, you chase pixels, bodies, moments, a fleeting surge of aliveness that dies as fast as it came. And what's left? The same void, the same ache, the same unanswered questions. You are not chasing her. You are chasing the part of you she reminds you of, because the real craving is not for touch, it's for truth. It's not about lust, it's about loss. The loss of connection to your body, to your purpose, to your soul. And here's the most brutal truth of all. Lust is not the enemy. It's the symptom. It's your soul trying to get your attention, in the only language it knows how, because there's a wound inside you, one you never asked for, one you never wanted, but one you have carried long enough. And if you're honest, really honest, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This video is not about shaming you. It's about revealing what Carl Jung believed was the real meaning behind your desire. Not sin, not weakness, but soul hunger. And in the next few minutes, we'll explore exactly what that hunger is trying to show you, why your cravings hurt, and how every act of lust is secretly a message from the deepest part of you, the part of you that's not trying to feel pleasure. It's trying to feel whole again. You have been told it's natural, that it's just part of being human, that lust is desire, and desire is life. But what if that's not true? What if what you are feeling is not lust at all? What if it's hunger? Not the kind that comes from the body, but the kind that comes from the soul, the kind that aches beneath your chest when the world gets quiet, the kind that no screen, no fantasy, no climax can ever satisfy. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Lust is rarely about sex. It's about escape. It's about the unbearable emptiness that creeps in when you are no longer distracted. It's about numbing the ache of disconnection, not just from others, but from yourself. Every time you reach for another hit, another body, another high, you are not reaching for pleasure. You are reaching for proof. Proof that you're still wanted, still alive, still capable of feeling something. But what if the reason you crave that rush is because you have been running on empty for years? There's a wound inside you. Maybe you can't name it. Maybe you pretend it's not there. But it shows up anyway, in your restlessness, in your endless scrolling, in the fantasies that never satisfy, in the quiet moments that feel like suffocation. Because what you call lust might just be your soul's way of screaming, "I'm starving. Feed me something real." Let me tell you a story. There was a man. By all appearances, he had it together. Charismatic, ambitious, always chasing women. He believed what he felt was desire. He told himself he was in control, that every conquest was a win. But late at night, when no one was watching, he would feel it, that void. He would lie there, next to someone who once thrilled him, and feel nothing, no connection, no warmth, just a dull ache he could not explain. He kept going, kept chasing, kept performing, Until one day, he asked himself a terrifying question. What if I don't actually want her? What if I just don't want to feel alone? And that changed everything, because he realized he was using her body as a distraction from his own emptiness. He did not want love. He wanted escape. He wanted something to cover the silence inside him. He was not chasing her. He was fleeing himself. That's what most people don't understand. Lust, in our world, has become a drug. It offers the illusion of power, of freedom, of being wanted. But underneath, it's a dopamine loop. Trigger, fantasy, release, numbness, repeat. And the more you feed it, the less alive you feel. Because the pleasure is not real. It's not rooted in connection, in intimacy, in meaning. It's rooted in performance. You play a role, you follow a script, you climax, and collapse. And then, you're back where you started, alone with yourself, still hungry, still empty. Carl Jung did not see lust as a moral failure. He saw it as a spiritual signal, a flare from the unconscious, a warning from the soul. Because when you're truly whole, you don't chase, you don't cling, you don't search for proof in someone else's body. You become desire itself. You radiate from within. You no longer need to consume to feel alive, because you are already connected to something deeper. But to get there, you have to stop lying to yourself. You have to admit that the craving is not random, that the endless lust is not a need. It's a mask hiding the fact that you have been disconnected for far too long. So, the next time you feel the pull, stop. Don't repress it. Don't act on it blindly. Just ask, what am I really craving right now? Not the image, not the surge, not the escape, but the real thing, the real need. And you might hear an answer that surprises you. Not sex, not release, but something softer, deeper, older, something that sounds like, I want to be held, I want to be known, I want to come back to myself. Because maybe, just maybe, you have never been lustful. You have just been hungry for something real. There's a part of you have never met. Not directly, not face to face, but it shows up. Every night you scroll, every time you crave, every time you break a promise you swore you would keep. Carl Jung called it the shadow. Not evil, not monstrous, just exiled. It's the part of you have tried to forget, because it made others uncomfortable. The part that wanted too much, felt too deeply, needed to be loved without earning it. So you buried it, pushed it down, dressed it in silence, and called it control. But the shadow never disappears. It waits, and when you are tired or alone or numb, it speaks, and the voice it uses sounds a lot like lust. You think it's desire, but it's not. It's your shadow, whispering through your cravings. Notice me. Feel me. Let me exist. But because you have forgotten how to speak that language, you misinterpret it. You think you want her. You think you need release. You think your body is the problem. But the ache, it's not in your body, it's in your soul. You have mistaken longing for integration as lust for stimulation. And the more you run from it, the more power it gains. Because that's what repressed energy does. It doesn't vanish. It mutates. It becomes addictive, compulsive, uncontrollable. Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And what could be more absurd than thinking another body will heal a wound that lives in your psyche? Here's how the cycle works. You feel lonely. Not a loneliness of company, but of identity, a disconnection from your essence. So, you crave, you chase, you surrender to the pattern. The hit comes, the moment of intensity, a second of false transcendence. Then, it dies, and you feel it, the guilt, the disappointment, the quiet shame. And to escape that feeling, you scroll again. Lust, guilt, numbness, repeat. This is the shadow-seduced loop. It does not just feed on lust, it feeds on your forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of who you are, of what you need, of the voice inside you that is not craving dopamine. It's craving wholeness. Here's the truth. You're not addicted to sex, you're addicted to escape. And every time you run from the ache, you teach your nervous system that you can't handle stillness. But the shadow does not want to destroy you. It wants to reunite with you. The part of you that still weeps in silence wants to be seen, not fixed, not shamed, seen. Because what you call lust is often the repressed cry of a child who was not met with love when he needed it most. So now you search for warmth, not because you're a sinner, but because you were never taught how to hold your own pain. This is what Jung meant by integration, not becoming perfect, not deleting desire, but turning toward the parts of yourself you have disowned and saying, I'm listening now. Because when you silence the shadow, you don't become free, you become fractured. You move through life pretending, performing, pleasing, while your real self sits in the dark, waiting to be remembered. Lust is not your flaw. It's your flashlight. It's the soul's way of pointing to the place inside you that was left behind. So the next time it rises, don't shame it, don't numb it, don't run from it. Pause, feel the pull, the ache, the heat. And instead of asking, how do I get rid of this? Ask instead, what part of me is trying to speak? Because behind every craving is a conversation with yourself you have not had the courage to have yet. And here's the most important thing you need to know. You're not wrong. You're not broken. You're not perverted or weak or addicted to pleasure. You're disconnected from your needs, from your softness, from the forgotten voice inside you that says, please don't leave me again. And when you finally listen, you will see that what you were calling lust was never about the body. It was the soul starving for your return. There was once a boy, quiet, curious, gentle in ways the world didn't know how to hold. He wanted simple things, to be heard, to be held, to be loved, without having to earn it. But love, in his world, came with conditions. Smile more, don't cry, be strong, be useful, make them proud. And so, he became what they needed, and forgot who he was, not out of rebellion, out of survival. Because when your softness is punished, you learn to harden. When your emotions are dismissed, you learn to hide. And when your worth depends on performance, you learn to perform. He grew into a man, at least on the outside, confident, sharp, desired, but inside, he was still that little boy, staring out the window, wondering why love always felt like a reward instead of a right. So he started chasing women, not to connect, but to feel wanted, to feel seen, to feel, even for a moment, like he mattered. He believed it was lust. He told himself it was natural, masculine even. But the truth, he didn't want sex. He wanted safety. He didn't want her body. He wanted her gaze, the way it made him forget that he never got to be a child in peace. You see, when a boy grows up unseen, he becomes a man addicted to being desired. Because desire feels like visibility, like proof that he exists, that someone finally notices. But it never lasts, because desire without intimacy is a flicker, not a fire. And so, the chase begins, again, and again, and again. A loop of longing, climax, collapse. Not because he's insatiable, but because he's still waiting for someone to look past his body and say, I see you, I see the boy beneath the armor. But most don't. They fall in love with the mask, not the man. And over time, he forgets there was ever anyone beneath it. He becomes the role, the seducer, the strong one, the emotionally unavailable one. Not because he wants to be, but because vulnerability was never safe. There's a moment that happens to every man like this. He's lying next to someone. She's beautiful. She's kind. She's everything he thought he wanted. And yet, he feels nothing. No depth, no connection, just the echo of an old ache he still doesn't have a name for. Because in that moment, he realizes something devastating. He's not with her. He's with the fantasy. He's not present. He's performing. And performance, no matter how passionate, can never replace presence. That's the wound. Not that he craves too much, but that he was never taught how to sit with what he craves, how to feel without fleeing, how to ask without begging, how to receive without proving. Carl Jung would say that every man carries this unhealed boy within him. And until you turn toward him, until you look him in the eyes and say, you don't have to perform anymore, he'll keep showing up, in lust, in loneliness, in moments that feel like love, but vanish the second they're touched. So ask yourself, when was the first time you felt invisible? When did you start chasing love instead of receiving it? When did your body become your armor and your desire become your language? Because the man who chases women endlessly is often just a boy trying to rewrite a story where love was withheld. But no woman, no matter how beautiful, can rewrite that story for you. Only you can. Not by chasing, not by performing, but by coming home to the part of you that's still waiting at the window, waiting to be seen, to be loved, to be enough, without doing anything at all. You think it's her eyes, her voice, her softness. You think that's what you're drawn to, that it's her body that stirs something in you, something urgent, primal, irresistible. But the truth, it's not her. It never was. It's you. The part of you she reminds you of. The part you forgot. The part you buried to survive. Carl Jung called it the anima, the inner feminine that lives within every man. Not feminine as in gender, but in essence. Tenderness, emotion, intuition, surrender, the ability to feel deeply without shame. When a man represses these traits, when the world teaches him to disconnect from his emotional body, to value strength over softness, stoicism over sensitivity, he loses contact with this inner feminine, but it does not disappear. It goes unconscious. And from that shadowed place, it begins to project. So when you meet her, the one who moves like music, who speaks with softness, who radiates warmth and feeling, your soul wakes up. Not because she is your other half, but because she mirrors a part of you you forgot was even yours. You don't crave her. You crave the reunion with yourself. This is the spiritual distortion most men never see. They think they are falling in love with a woman, but what they are really doing is falling in love with their lost soul through her. That's why the desire feels so overwhelming, so sacred, so irrational, because it's not sexual, it's symbolic. Your soul is trying to come back to itself, and it's using her as the mirror, but mirrors can't hold you. They can only show you what's missing. And when you don't understand this, you start chasing her, possessing her, obsessing over her. Not because you love her, but because you think she has something you have lost, her softness, her warmth, her glow. But what you are really chasing is the version of yourself that knew how to feel. And here's where it gets dangerous, because no woman, no matter how radiant, can complete what's missing in you. She might awaken it, she might inspire it, but if you have not met your anima, you will turn her into a fantasy. And fantasies always collapse, because the more disconnected you are from your own soul, the more pressure you put on hers. You want her to carry the weight of your unmet needs, your suppressed emotions, your forgotten beauty. But she was not designed for that. No one is. And so, the relationship begins to break. Not because there's something wrong with her, but because you are not really with her. You are with your projection. Jung warned of this. He said that when the anima is unconscious, a man becomes enslaved by what he calls erotic fantasy. He does not see the woman. He sees the myth, the dream, the symbol. And the moment she reveals herself as human, with flaws, boundaries, and limits, he feels betrayed. But the betrayal is not hers. It's his own soul reminding him, this is not your path to wholeness. This is your invitation to turn inward. Because the truth is, the more you chase her, the more you abandon yourself. You're not pursuing love. You're avoiding reunion, not with her, but with you. So, the next time you are captivated by her presence, ask yourself, what part of me is she awakening? Is it your softness, your sensitivity, your longing to be touched emotionally, not just physically? Because once you become conscious of the anima, everything changes. You stop chasing women to feel complete. You stop projecting your soul onto strangers. You begin reclaiming it, integrating it, living it. And suddenly, you don't need to consume beauty, because you have remembered your own. She was never the destination. She was the signpost, the mirror, the messenger, pointing you back to the place where your tenderness still lives, waiting to be felt again. And when you meet that part of you, you will realize you were not chasing sex. You were chasing your lost self through someone else's body. And you can finally stop, because what you were looking for was never her. It was you. You have spent years trying to outrun it, the craving, the heat, the urge that rises like a wave and crashes with guilt. You have tried ignoring it, fighting it, numbing it, drowning it in silence, then noise, then shame. But lust was never the problem. Repression does not heal, it fragments. It deepens the split between who you are and who you pretend to be. Carl Jung never told us to destroy our desire. He told us to understand it, because lust, when stripped of projection and addiction, is not sin. It's signal. It's the soul's flare in the dark. A cry from the unconscious saying, "There's something here, something you have not faced yet." Healing does not come from denying the craving. It comes from sitting with it, breathing with it, asking it what it wants to show you, not with fear, not with judgment, but with presence. Because presence changes everything. When you stop trying to escape the ache, you finally hear what it's trying to say. I miss you. I need to be seen. I'm not lust. I'm longing for you. That's the shift, from addiction to awareness, from performance to presence, from chasing bodies to listening to your own. This is what Jung meant by integration, not killing off your shadow, but folding it back into the light. You begin to see that lust is not something to be ashamed of. It's something to learn from. It shows you where you are still disconnected, where you are still starving, where you still believe that love lives outside of you. But when you integrate, you stop searching for love in others because you have remembered how to offer it to yourself. So, next time the craving shows up, don't run, don't scroll, don't perform. Stay. Stay with the ache, stay with the breath, stay through the heat without feeding it. Let the discomfort rise, let the fantasy fade, let the silence speak, because within that silence is your answer. And when you finally feel it, not as an enemy, but as a part of you, everything shifts. You stop fearing your desire, and you start hearing it. You stop being consumed by it, and you start transforming with it. Lust becomes sacred when you understand what it's pointing to, the part of you that's ready to return home. So ask yourself, what are you actually craving? Not the rush, not the body, not the moment that makes you feel wanted, but beneath it all. What is the ache really asking for? Because the truth is, it was never about her. Not really. She was the mirror, the projection, the spark that reminded you of something you lost long ago. Yourself. You did not crave her touch. You craved your own truth. You were not chasing love. You were chasing your own presence. The part of you that got buried beneath performance, pressure, and pain. Carl Jung believed that desire, when misunderstood, becomes addiction. But when seen clearly, it becomes transformation. And now, you have a choice. You can keep searching for her, in images, in fantasies, in fleeting arms, hoping she will save you from yourself. Or you can stop, turn inward, and meet the one who's been waiting all along. Because the wound, that was not your fault. But the healing, that's your responsibility. You don't need more content, more stimulation, more women, more highs. You need you, your breath, your stillness, your buried softness, your forgotten light. You keep reaching outward thinking salvation lives in her gaze, but it does not. It lives in your return. So, here's the hardest truth. You were never addicted to her. You were addicted to the feeling of being whole. Now, give that back to yourself. Because when you stop performing and start being, when you stop chasing and start listening, lust becomes a teacher. Stillness becomes a sanctuary. And presence becomes your power. You don't need her. You need you. All of you. And that's where everything begins. If this spoke to something inside you, if it helped you see your craving in a new light, don't let the insight fade. Subscribe to Syphos for more videos that go beyond the surface, into the mind, the soul, and the truth most people avoid. Because this journey, it's just beginning, and you don't have to walk it alone.